You did a good job of it last week.
Yeah.
You did start with Pronation Nation and then you changed it to Arm Wrestling Extra. I was like, all right.
No, I was saying that's Pronation Nation. The audience is Pronation Nation.
All right. Hello, Pronation Nation. What if they're a hooker, though? Then they're supinating.
Well, they get fucked. They're not welcome. You got to choose your people sometimes.
You got to pick your side.
They wish they could pronate.
Right.
If they're hookers, they
If
wish.
they try.
Yeah, they wish.
They just can't do it.
No.
Some people, they're not ambidextrous like that.
Well, there's some people.
Not ambi-turners.
Albie Turners.
Ambi-turner and son. Furniture, isn't it?
Yeah.
They had to only craft this way.
Yeah, that's right.
All their furniture turns in.
Yeah, that's right. Beveled, finished.
That's right.
Always curved.
It's all of the sanding.
Yeah.
It's done like that.
Yeah,
Great arm wrestlers.
Yeah.
Great top rollers. Terrible hookers.
Terrible.
Terrible. All right. Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the Double Biceps. It is a legal contractual engagement requirement every single time we appear on camera. Didn't read the contract. It was in the fine print. It is in there. If you would like your copy of the contract, please get in touch with us. We'll send it out to you happily. This is the Arm Wrestling Extra podcast. This is episode 2. It's not the inaugural episode, but we'll call it the second inaugural episode for fun. My co-host, co-founder, co-breather of air, wearer of clothing, the master of disaster, king of sting, the one and only, the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year Award is in fact Dave Stockbridge.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome to your own podcast.
I feel welcome. I feel comfortable. I really enjoyed that introduction.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No, thank you. It was
on the spot. It was all made up.
Yeah, just right there and then. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, good.
So Matthew, what's been going on in the world of arm wrestling this week? I mean, big week in arm wrestling as always.
That's right, absolutely. We did see the Arm Wars battle between Ryan Bowen and Stoica.
What were your thoughts going into that particular bout? How did you feel that was going to play out? Because there was a bit of build up and a bit of animosity in the lead up to the event, which stretched back to the last Arm Wars event, from what I understand. So. Colour us in with a bit of background on all of this, Hollywood Matt Connolly.
I do realise I just did say his name backwards. I said Stoica Bogdan, it's actually Bogdan Stoica. But yes, so Bogdan Stoica, a fantastic arm wrestler in his weight category. He's one of the best in the world, absolutely. He had a match against Australia's Jordan Davis, who flew all the way around the other side of the world to go on the Arm Wars show. And they had their battle, and Bogdan Stoica had an easy 5-1 victory there, and sort of trash talked his way through the match and became the villain in that world. He did a good job of it, and he definitely got people to pay attention. And Neil Pickup, who was running that show and sort of the production side of things, really played up that element. Unlike what they've done with Arm Wars, with this productions, they're putting out sort of about half-an-hour episodes of these super matches. There's 6 rounds, regardless of, some if you're 4-0 up, obviously you've won, but they still pull the last 2 rounds anyway.
Yeah.
But they have done a really good job with their production. So they are interviewing the combatants prior to the match, and you're sort of getting a bit of a history as to their styles and why they're here, and especially guys that have come from international waters to compete on Arm Wars. And then each round, you see the actual round take place, and then you get an interview with the combatants as well to find out, what they were thinking, what their strategy was, how they're feeling, which is really quite interesting because you do get a bit of an insight into what their strategy was going into each round, and especially if somebody gets pinned very easily, and then it's like, their feelings like, I just got blown out the water, I really need to adjust my game plan, whereas the other person might be like, this guy's got nothing. Yeah. So Bogdan really played up that villain role, and he did a lot of trash talking, not only in the little interview bits, but in the actual match as well. So he painted himself quite well as the villain, which a 5-1 victory over Jordan.
Well, he certainly caught the ire of Jordan's mate Ryan Bowen, exactly. And Ryan got pretty fired up straight after that particular bout, and emotions were high, and retribution was discussed and talked up in advance of the competition. And where were you leaning into that, having seen the match against Jordan, and also having recently pulled Ryan Bowen yourself?
Yeah, well, I think Ryan and Jordan and Bogdan would destroy me no matter what I did. Ryan especially did. Yes, it's hard to put my level of, it's like, kids versus your dad and saying which dad is better. But in terms of looking at match history leading into it, Ryan Bowen had a match against Coach Ray, which everyone sort of thought was going to be really quite close, and I think Ryan was leading as the favourite in that match. Yeah, he ended up losing, and I think it was to 3.
That surprised me. That was a real surprise loss from my perspective coming into that. I thought that Ryan pretty much had that. Your read as well?
Yeah, I thought he would be the favourite in that match for sure.
Does this make us delusional as well now?
No, I think it was smart gamesmanship from Ray. I think he trained really hard for this match.
He looked bigger.
He did. He was on fire for that and really focused. And not saying that Ryan didn't, but it was just I was expecting Ryan to have a different sort of style or game plan going into it, but Coach Ray was lightning fast, and that first round was over in a quarter of a second. Like it was going back, gone. Wow, yeah, it was just so quick.
And Ryan seemed downsized, almost malnourished leading into that. Like he'd really cut weight, and yet Coach Ray, on the other hand, looked like he bulked up significantly and looked good. Instead of looking like a little bit soft and puffy, he looked hard and strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think they had the match at 90 kilos was the agreed upon weight. Yeah. So obviously Ryan, I think he was sitting around 96, 97 or something like that before, like leading it into the match. So he dieted down to get down to the 90 kilos. And Ray, being a shorter guy, he was able to I guess put on
fill out into his 90.
Exactly. Yeah. So 90 was sort of top end for him, whereas for Ryan it was like a diminished in a way, like you had to lose weight to get to that limit. Yeah. But that's the game, and some you win, some you lose. It's, indeed. But yes.
And so, what do you think changed for Ryan in that intervening few weeks leading into Arm Wars?
Yeah. Well, public opinion, of course, everyone seems to hate Ryan at every opportunity that they get, despite the fact that he's done so much for arm wrestling and is one of the major reasons that arm wrestling has grown to the level that it is. And he's actually behind sponsoring most of the arm wrestling channels that are actually out there. But yeah, he still continues to get hated upon massively. And I guess, it is the way of the internet that people like to see somebody fail, and they want to see him fail.
I think also Ryan plays a pretty good heel from time to time. So
he will play into it, and especially he did with the lock-on match. That was probably the most heelish that he went.
Yes, yeah, he went deep. He went deep.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
I didn't know if that relationship was going to recover. But it seemed things were fine 15 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, leading into a match, if you've got, that was one of the biggest matches of the year, really, in terms of international or anything. I'm sure that was one of the most watched matches with the most interest, and the two best friends in Queensland. It's like putting a thing on together, and they promoted it so well.
Did a great job.
That people became really interested in it. Yeah, which is awesome to see that people can promote their own things without, what we've talked about, the internet and stuff like that before, and setting up your own brand and creating your own audience and finding your niche, which is what Ryan has done. And then obviously Lachlan being, number one in Australia at the moment after winning that match, and he's had international opportunities since then, and going on to be one of, hopefully one of the best in the world. And we'll see how he progresses. But
now, you did touch on a little while ago about Neil Pickup and his production, and probably I can't think of anybody else who would have experimented more with the formats within arm wrestling as much as Neil. Neil's obviously trying to work really hard in finding that balance between viewer appeal, monetization, developing the sport, creating a great platform for the talent. And I don't think anybody's really doing more in that space. And what do you make of Neil's play with this, where it's not being live streamed like almost all the other events are currently, but it's being post-produced and then uploaded later? What's your thoughts on that? What's your take on that? And why do you think Neil's gone in that direction? And do you like that particular direction?
I think it's got positives and negatives doing it that way. I do really like it, and I do prefer it actually when you have a polished, well produced piece of work and content at the end, where you've gone through, you've gotten great interviews, you've gotten great moments, you've cut it together so it looks fantastic. Obviously, if you're trying to do that live, you're not going to be able to get those moments as well as you could. It's going to be a bit of a switching between this and that, and it's going to be much more difficult. The difficult side of it, doing it in post-production, is trying to keep the results secret. Which they've done really well. I'm not sure if they've signed contracts like
I think
confidentiality.
Neil's got incriminating photos of all the athletes, so we're fine.
Right, exactly. Everyone
Everyone
he knows everything. So obviously, when you run an event live, the value of the event immediately drops as soon as people know what the result is. So keeping it secret is difficult, but they've been able to keep these results under wraps. But then you've got to sort of put that out as quickly as you can before the result does leak, because I'm actually amazed that
it's a little bit like The Bachelor, isn't it?
Right.
So there's that delay between. It's exactly the same, but with arm wrestling. Right. So, but TV does do that well, and Neil's obviously taken a page out of the TV network's books with that one, and do you like it because it creates a high quality product when released, which you feel is better representative of the brand and a nice evolution for the sport. Downside, what in the back of your mind? Why aren't other events going down that path?
It's more difficult. A, to keep the results secret. B, the secrecy side of it. If you're running a tournament, for example, there's going to be all the people that attend the tournament will know the results instantly, and they might be filming it themselves on their phone, streaming live or updating people live on what the results are. And if you're not streaming it, you are literally your value of your content is being reduced by the second. Like as soon as that match happens and someone says, "Oh, this person won that round," now the people that are watching, the audience that were interested in it, rather than seeing your live stream, which might be well produced and they have a great angle and everything is set in place so it looks fantastic, they just get reading somebody's post or somebody's phone that they've, this person won this round. And when they go to watch, if you put your post-production product out, even a month later, a week later, the next day, people already know who won. They're not going to be like, "Oh, yeah, but I already know." Maybe they'll sort of have a skim through, just to see if there was any interesting moments. But when things are happening live is where you've got those moments, those seconds are so valuable. But the difficulty is, the question of if you can keep it in-house and secret like they have done with Arm Wars, that's where you can actually put out a really high produced quality product.
So basically, where if there's a large audience involved, it has to be a live stream. If you can control the audience, then you've got better quality control over the product that eventually goes out. Yeah.
When you look at Arm Wars, the guys that are in that room, they're the other competitors in that. There's no outside audience. It's the people that are working on the cameras, the microphones.
And Neil's obviously given this a lot of thought after his experiences with WAL and no doubt with World's Strongest Man, and he's got a great pedigree in terms of hosting and being behind the scenes on some of the biggest events in combat sports. So Neil's obviously come about this concept for a particular reason. Do you think it would be how Neil's content remains into the future, or do you think there'll be a blend between the live stream, larger events with bigger audiences, and the format that he's hit on there with Arm Wars? Or do you think he's really iterating and the Arm Wars formula is the one for the future.
No, it will have to go live. We'll have to.
Okay.
And if you look at, and I love to compare things to UFC, but if people are watching the UFC and they want to see it right there and then, and the UFC put a ton of money into production. That live production is amazing. They've done their top end. They're one of the best in the world at doing that, at putting out a product where you can see it looks fantastic. There's awesome commentary. There's every element has been covered, so that when you're watching it, you are watching something that is high quality and excellent produced content live. If they tried to wait even an hour later to put out, to edit something together and put it out, people have already seen the results. They're not going to watch it. Their viewership just drops enormously.
The UFC do an excellent job of supporting their pay-per-view content. They do a great job of promoting the events and the lead up to the events. They make some of the content free. If there's a combatant, they'll have a series of feature videos during the course of in the lead up week, profiling them and their journey and their career. They'll often be if there's a title fight or a main event, one of the athletes, you'll be able to watch one of their more recent fights or maybe one of their classic fights live in the week leading up. So, during the course of the week, you've got content populating through and filtering through that supports that main event or brings attention to it. But it also just retains attention to the brand. And I think they've almost factored in the leakage where even somebody who might be an enthusiast might miss a pay-per-view event, but because of their social media engagement, your attention's retained on the sport, even though you haven't necessarily watched that most recent event or two or three, but you're also able to stay up to date just by simply following their socials. Now, that's a mammoth task, and that's a difficult thing for a production company to handle when it's really down to a handful of people. Do you feel that Neil's direction with this is probably the best, given the resources that's available at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the sport and the money that's available in the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely gone about it the right way for where the sport is positioned right now. If he was trying to put it out live and getting as good quality as he is with his post-production product, it just wouldn't be the same. As you know, when you're watching arm wrestling, there is a lot of downtime between rounds, but when people slip, when you get the strap, there's a lot of setup, a lot of nothing happening. Which, if you're watching live and you haven't got a really good supporting network of a good commentator that's keeping you engaged, of multiple camera angles, replays, of things that are going to, if you're the viewer, those elements need to be there. Otherwise, they're going to be like, this is boring, because one round might take 10 minutes before you get an actual match. And if you're watching live and you haven't got those other elements, it's pretty boring to watch that. But if you've got a good, solid commentator and who's constantly telling you the techniques and what's happening in the setup, what the other person's trying to get, why this is important, the history of these two people, even the previous rounds, how the strategy was, and you've got those elements that are keeping the viewer watching, and it's not that they're just sitting there watching two people getting set up for a minute and then slipping and then getting set up in the strap for a minute and then, and then a foul and a restart. It's like those elements, you need to have a strategy to combat the boring side of it.
And do you think it's because of all of those elements that somebody like Ryan Bowen, who's a 90-ish kilo athlete, he's not one of the big super heavyweights, he's not one of the greatest of all times, he's not in that top echelon of arm wrestlers in the world, in his weight division, very much potentially, and in Australia very much so, but he's able to, because he does have that story, he does have that narrative, people do care whether he wins or loses. Some people don't want him to win, but that's enough for them to be watching his matches. And Neil was able to leverage a lot of that, thanks to Ryan's, I guess, quite audible protests after Lachlan's bout. So leading up to this, there was already that story, there was already that strong narrative, and we were coming to it and also coming straight off a loss for Ryan. A lot of people were expecting this is going to be Ryan's second loss.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of people were eagerly anticipating a loss, especially against Bogdan Stoica, who, you know, as we said before, he's one of, in his weight class, he's like right at the peak of that weight class. He's an excellent arm wrestler. And there was history, there was villain, you know, it was almost two villains going against each other. You know? It's like when you've got two guys that are fighting each other and you're hoping for a double KO. You know? I'm sure the audience was hoping for something like that, or they were cheering on Bogdan for the first time ever, you know, just because they didn't like Ryan more. But so we saw the match, and it did end up with a victory for Ryan, and he took the first 4 rounds, so he was up 4-0. As we said before, it's 6 rounds regardless. In the 5th round, I believe there was Ryan had said, "Do you want to go into a hook?" And it was like, I think there was some conversation, and then they started, and Bogdan pinned him, and I was like, "Oh, all right." I thought we were going into a hook. But I think in the final round, Bogdan got that one as well. So it ended up being a 4-2 victory. But after Ryan was up 4-0, he was in a position he couldn't lose. So but a very strong comeback. And as he has said, that was the biggest win of his career, which is no small statement. So which is fantastic. And to do it on that stage as well. And, you know, so anybody who is following arm wrestling will know Neil Pickup, will know Arm Wars, will know Bogdan Stoica, will know Ryan Bowen, and to have them compete in that level of production, it wasn't just like a home little super match mess around in a shed or something. It was like, this is the biggest production that's going on currently in the world. And you got the victory, and it wasn't just you didn't just win, like you convincingly won that match. So well done to Ryan Bowen. And I mean, as we said before, Bogdan is no slouch. So he also did very well, even though he didn't win the match. But he is still a fantastic arm wrestler.
And well done, Neil Pickup, putting together an amazing production there, and certainly setting the standard in arm wrestling right now. There's absolutely no doubt. Very happy athletes, fantastic quality of production, and great matchups, importantly as well. So
I do like what he's. All right, didn't mean to interrupt. I do like what he's doing. I do like his character building, that he is putting the best matches that he can on, and building storyline. My only criticism with his production, for me, and this is the only thing I would change, I do like everything he's doing. I love the camera angles. I like the darkness, the theme, the setting, the lighting, the way that they've gone about the interviews and everything like that. I do think it runs just a little bit too long. I think the episodes are around half an hour, 25 minutes to 30 minutes. I think some of those interview moments in between rounds can be cut down on. I think that if somebody gets flash pinned, there's not really a lot you can say, you know, and it seems to be that you'll get a 1 minute or 1.5 minute interview from both guys after each round, and it's like, it was flash pin. Like, there's not much you can say, but it for me, that's the only thing that I would change. I would just make it a little bit tighter, so it's a little bit more bang, 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 punchy, less of the talking. I think it is important, and I would almost remove it in certain rounds where it was just a blowout, and I would keep it to maybe if it was 3 rounds in, and then I want to hear from both guys about what's going on. After every round, I think it's just a little bit too often, and a little bit too it was, you're saying the same thing again, 6 times. So it can, especially if it's a 6-0 win or something like that. It's like, well, the guy's too strong, and then the next round, he's too strong still. But
there's only so much to say.
That's right. So apart from that, I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Awesome. So now. Something else to look forward to for arm wrestling fans, if they've been paying attention to your page, they would see that the Titans Open is looming. First week of October, right here at Moonshots in the heart of Adelaide. So it should be a very interesting event. So a couple of little twists to the standard formula. So we're going straight to straps.
That's right.
I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so
all matches starting straps.
All matches starting in straps, and and a little bit of something extra at the end, just to make sure that nobody is able to drive home afterwards. Is that right?
That's right. I'm actually looking forward to that the most out of anything. We've got the last man standing section, which is what we're calling. So after the whole rest of the tournament is complete, the overalls, everyone's been named as winner or whatever. We've got last man standing, and it is essentially king of the table, like winner stays on sort of thing. And it's like two people will start, the winner stays on, then the next person comes on and challenges. The winner stays on. You keep going through, and it's 60 minutes. Whoever is in the king position at the 60-minute mark will get $500. And also, as we found out last week from
another twist.
Yeah, that's right. Whoever stays in the king position the longest, in terms of the longest amount of time, will also get $500. So yeah, but it should be interesting and it's deliberately set at the end after the tournament is completed, so that the people who are heavyweights or that have a natural strength advantage will hopefully have a lot of their power diminished.
So almost like a handicap event, isn't it? And anybody could win. That's the exciting thing about it. So, so if you're just arm wrestling curious and you haven't had a chance to compete before and you're not quite ready to register for the tournament, well, you might just walk away with $500 by jumping on the table and being the last man standing.
That's right, because somebody that might win the overall might be so exhausted that they can't beat somebody who's never arm wrestled before. That's what's exciting about it, is that you literally could, especially after 60 minutes.
That's right.
If they're holding on and it's, oh God, and they have to keep going against like other heavyweights, and they're trying to win and hold that position as well. Yep. Yeah, so it should be fun. It should be exciting, something different.
Yeah. So it should be great fun. And people, can they pre-register with you, or how or just turn up on the day? What's the way to go about it?
Yeah, so no pre-registration required.
Okay.
So on the day, which is Sunday, the 9th of October, here at Moonshots, or the Imagination Building, Imagination Studios, which is 54 Hyde Street in Adelaide, from 1 o'clock p.m. till 2 o'clock p.m. If you are interested in competing at all in any section of the tournament, last man standing, or any of the weight classes, you need to come see me between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Fill out a registration form, an entry form, and if you are going into a weight class, then you will need to get on the scales and prove that you are that weight. So and
you'll notice, so we'll have all the signage, everything up on the building. You know exactly where to be and where to go, and Matt will be pretty easy to find. Is the guy with the double bicep.
I'll be sitting there like this the entire time.
It's
hard to write like that.
He gets other people to write for him, so he can remain in the static pose.
That's right. That's where the scribes came from.
That's right.
In ancient history.
These little minions. So that's going to be an exciting afternoon. So be here nice and early. What time does the competition kick off?
Yeah, so after 2 o'clock, we'll kick off with the under 70 kilos left arm. We'll do under 70s left, under 70s right. Then the under 70s is done. Mm-hmm. Then under 80s left and right, under 95s left and right, 95 and above left and right, and then the overalls. Yeah.
So. We'll see who wins the very, very first Titans Open Championship belt, cape of the Phantom Jacket.
Phantom Jacket, man, I want that. If we're getting one of them, I want that. Like, you can't have it.
So anyway, big prizes, cash prizes, great fun all afternoon. We'll be here, replenishments downstairs all day. So if you are coming along, make yourself available. Nice and early. Make sure that you don't miss the way in, and you can be on the tables walking away with some cash in your pocket. All brought to you by Real. So
that's right.
Thank you very much.
Agent, you got the right arm that correct that time.
Dave Stockbridge at Real.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Nice guy. Have you ever met him?
He's good. Well, he's won that Dave Stockbridge award.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Well, 45 of the last 47 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
impressive. He's pretty good. He's nominated again this year. Yeah. Vince Colosimo, he's a dark horse. He is. There's every rumor he was going to nominate himself just to. It's a thorn on my side. But so awesome. So really looking forward to that event, and we'll obviously there'll be content flowing out as a result of that. So anybody that comes down, you will see yourself out there on the social media pages, which, from what I understand, we've now hit over 1 million views across all of the platforms now, with all of the good work that you've been doing at the SA Titans over the last year or couple of years now, and with that whole Super Match series and all of those videos being uploaded, collecting views, and now obviously it's become quite the juggernaut, and obviously absorbing a lot of your time and energy now as well. I would say it's a pretty substantial part of your life now, is collating all of the content and things like this, the podcast and all of the events that happen with the club.
Right.
And now earning yourself tons of views.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
So we had 3 super matches on Sunday night just gone, and then Monday, pretty much all of Monday, I was at the computer editing them all together, and it's like 6 hours to get these matches up and running. But it's one of those things. Like I can edit a match very quickly. Like I can just use my phone, get it up, and then done. But I keep I want to make it look better and better. And as your skills get, like, you
more
increase.
proficient.
Yeah, exactly. You get better at it. You're like, I want to add this. I want to put this moment. I want to put these transitions. I want to put sound effects. I want to put music. I want to put that.
Yeah.
And that's where you're adding in time. But as I said, I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't enjoying it. And then you're sort of more proud of the product you are coming out with at the end, which looks better, sounds better, is more interesting. You've got your rankings coming up at the end of each video, so people can track where they're going or who is important and what rank this person, why this match would be interesting. The different characters and all the rest of it that are involved in the club, and it's just a lot of fun. So and it's one of the best things is to finish a video and have it uploaded and then get to share it with everyone and go, here it is, here's the match, and see that people are excited to see themselves or to see one of their friends or whatever pulling in the match. So, and
even sometimes just watching some of the practice pools, and you get to see yourself sometimes think, is that what I'm doing? Okay, well that's interesting. And so even from a tutorial perspective, all of those videos I think are really helpful.
Absolutely.
And also from a sponsor perspective, to be able to say, as I did just recently to 2 other prospective sponsors of the club, that we've had over 1 million views, where my logo has been in the background, and I can't think of too many other ways that a small business could achieve such large organic reach than with that. So for the investment, the rate of return has been exceptional in terms of getting my brand out there, and I do acknowledge that not everybody is in my marketplace that sees that logo, and there's people from all over the world, and maybe that I completely acknowledge that, but in terms of what it does for me and in my marketplace, and that's all I've got to care about, is that it's a really a net positive flow-on effect in supporting a community group, but that people know I support because the group, the club in this case, and yourself, ensure that my brand's getting out there in front of these people all the time. So
exactly,
So and that is why Lammy Largo, Adelaide's newest boutique, men's and women's tailor, just opened in Rundle Mall and Stevens Place, has come on board as a sponsor for the Titans Open, and so has Cooker Digital Printing. So they've also come on board. So more sponsors making their way over to the Titans, and that's because of all of your good work, mate, in terms of getting brands out there and rewarding the sponsors of the club. So congratulations, mate.
It's been great. Yeah, as I said, wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it, and the ability that what we've been able to achieve with your help over the last 2 years has just been phenomenal. Next to nothing, really. I mean, it can't be compared to the opportunities that we've had to get into the Apex Sports Festival, with Craig Ike at the Diamondback Fighting Championships, and literally having arm wrestling in the octagon during an MMA event was just incredible.
1,500 people in the room.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Even when I was putting a bit of a trailer together to, to advertise the Titans Open, and I had those matches to put in, I was like, this looks so amazing. I can't believe we actually got to do that.
Yeah.
And obviously, the tables, the shirts, all of the things that you provided. Even each week, the centre that we have, the hire fees, and all that you've covered. So, yeah, we would be on a driveway somewhere with no shirt, shirtless, no table. Yeah, so we appreciate it as well, obviously.
Well, I would say that anybody who does have a small business and is and looking to get themselves involved in the arm wrestling community in any way by supporting the club, then it's a great way. It's a fantastic culture. The people that are involved are wonderful. Much like my experience in MMA, the people are fantastic. They're very community minded, and it's a great bunch of people to be involved with. So I'll definitely make the suggestion to anybody to get involved with an active arm wrestling club and support them, because they'll support you.
Yeah, it's fun when people just come along for the first time, and even if they're not interested in arm wrestling, but it's like they've been talked into it or whatever, or they just turn up to see what it is. They're gonna have a good time. They literally will have fun and enjoy themselves, and they're going to win every match because people will let them sort of get the technique correct and allow themselves getting pinned over and over until they sort of understand what's going on, and they're making it a little bit more difficult and explaining the ideas and the techniques behind what you're trying to achieve. So anybody can come along and have a good time, which is the goal. And even if they don't come back again, at least at some point where they go, oh yeah, I tried arm wrestling. Yeah, there was, everyone was really nice and friendly, and it was fun. I just didn't, it wasn't for me or something like that. But at least they would have turned up, and I know they would have left saying, "Oh, that was good. I enjoyed that."
And what I would say is, if anybody is out there who is looking to start an arm wrestling club, or who is involved with a few mates and they're looking to grow their club, then certainly reach out to Hollywood Matt Connolly. He's got the secret formula. He's grown the club to huge numbers now, and obviously, if you've been following us, you've been following Matt, and you know all about his videos and what he's up to. So if you want to learn more about how to do exactly what Matt's doing so that you can attract sponsors to your club and to grow your membership and to enjoy arm wrestling with even more people, then reach out to Hollywood Matt Connolly.
Exactly, that's right. And right now, I'm going to ask Dave how he got interested in arm wrestling, because I want to hear this story.
Oh, okay. So I think I saw initially it was some videos with Tom and Gigi. Where they had the channel together, and that was just Gigi doing his own thing. And it was kind of and you'd mentioned it before. I think that was. The gateway drug to that was the Strength Wars. Was it Strength Wars?
Yeah.
Was that the one that you would?
Yeah.
So you'd have these guys, and it'd be bodybuilders versus powerlifters, and powerlifters versus CrossFits, and and so you'd have these people competing. And I've got a feeling that you might have been doing one of those, and then I saw that, and then he was doing something else, and then he was doing something else, and I just started becoming a fan of the channel. And then I think Devin Larratt was on the channel and was explaining to him, the art of arm wrestling, and obviously he fell in love with it as well.
Yeah.
And so through that, once you hit Devin Larratt, it kind of wasn't long before you're finding out about John Brzezinski, and but there wasn't a lot of material on John Brzezinski at the time. A few of the big names like Michael Todd didn't have much of a social media presence at that time. Not many of the big names did. Ryan Bowen did though, and that was really cool because there was an Aussie doing all the things that I know would work on social media, doing an exceptional job of it, and kind of bringing a lot of awareness to the sport as well. So I just started following him because I thought he is somebody who's doing really cool things in that world, and then just one thing led to another, and I think Devin Larratt was launching Arm Bets, the app, basically. Tinder for arm wrestlers, essentially. And I looked up on the app, and there was like 4 or 5 kind of like faces that popped up, and Tim the Viking Graham, he was one of those, and Taryn Broad was another, and there might have been one or two other names.
There was a few. Yeah, we all jumped on it pretty early.
I think you were, but you were down. So there was a little cluster of people, kind of not far away, and so I reached out to Tim, because I think with Tim as well, it said that he was the arm wrestling. He was the guru in South Australia. He was the president or whatever of the club.
Yep.
And I thought I'll reach out to him and find out where's the club, what's going on.
Yeah.
And at the time, things were in hiatus because of COVID, and they weren't formally meeting or anything at that stage. And but Taryn was just training at home with a few of the other guys, and so I went around there on a few occasions. Absolutely had a ball. Absolutely loved it. They were really gracious, and and showing me in as much as I could be taught. But I think they also had a lot of fun just beating me as well. And and then when club activities started up, that was about the time that I think I might have visited on a couple of occasions, but then. Tim had kind of handed the reins over to you, and you were getting involved in doing more of the videos and the super match series, and things were really developing a momentum, and more members were coming into the club. So I really enjoyed it, and I could see that there was huge potential in the sport, and that it was definitely migrating away from being a pub sport and to becoming something that was somewhat more professional, and that was not going to ever be, and I don't think would have ever been facilitated by mainstream TV, but YouTube was the home, the internet was the home for arm wrestling. It had you could see it had all of the traits of what could be a very, very successful subculture, in the same way that, say, skating or UFC did at the time, but or like skateboarding, BMXing. It kind of had that. The people that were in it deep.
Yeah.
And I thought there's huge upside here, because this is one of those sports that could just explode at any minute. And sure enough, the last 18 months or so has seen huge growth in the sport. And I see this is only the beginning, because we're seeing all of this happen where we've got a lot of the greats of the sport are now getting to retirement age, or they might they'll be on the tail end of their career, but you've got this whole new generation of athletes that are now permeating through to those top ranks, that are now assuming their role and fulfilling their potential within the sport, and that's what's really exciting, because I think for a long time there wasn't a next generation, because there wasn't a pathway, and I think the great work of Ryan Bowen in particular in creating a pathway for athletes where they can make a living out of arm wrestling is Ryan Bowen's great gift to the sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exciting times, and
exciting times.
Yeah, it does feel like getting in at the basement level of something, and it's like, oh, this hasn't quite been fully established worldwide as a, there's no global entity. It's like, oh, you've got to be part of this to, whatever. It's all sort of little bits of coming together, and it's all slowly rising. But it's like, oh, this is an exciting time to get in on it, which is great.
It really is. It feels like the Wild West of a sport in some respects. Where the rule set hasn't been. It's not. You can make it up on the day. It's not set in concrete. The way and the manner in which athletes compete has not been formalised or codified necessarily. It seems like the sport got hung up on some of the technicalities rather than the broader the broader appeal of the sport. And how the sport might translate onto screen. I don't think the sport's being developed with that necessarily in mind, and I think that's where the next evolution of the sport is likely to be. And people like visionaries like Neil Pickup are working in that direction. People like Ryan Bowen are giving these things a lot of thought, even in our own modest way in what we're doing with the Titans Open, in having that straight straps and having a tournament structure, but then at the end creating another event. So essentially 2 events in one, where anybody could win.
Yeah.
So huge variables, big interest, big prize money, but great novelty and an opportunity to stretch what it means to have an arm wrestling event. So all of these things are happening in the sport all at the same time, and it's very, very exciting.
Absolutely, yeah, you're right. For sure about the purist style of arm wrestling is very. It's very over-refereed, I feel. Like there's so many times, there's so much setup, so much of referee interaction, and matches can start. Somebody gets pinned, and they're like, "Oh no, hang on, his elbow slightly lifted, right?" And it's like, okay, restart it, and then hang on, just an elbow strap, and this guy's beaten him 4 times already.
Yeah. I kind of liken it to cricket. You've got Test match cricket, you've got one-day cricket, you've got 2020, and all are still cricket. They've just different versions, and your WAF might be more along the lines of the Test cricket. That's your purist, and then at the other end of the spectrum might be a much more liberal rule set that's maybe more viewable, more watchable.
Yeah. I think it will definitely trend towards that way. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, Pro Nation, we're coming to the end of our hour of power. So thank you so much for joining us again. This episode is brought to you by Real Estate Agents Group. There they are on the right and the left bicep of Hollywood Matt Connolly. Thank you very much, Hollywood Matt Connolly, not just for the double biceps, but for everything. And the beards come along really well.
I'm trying to catch up with you.
It won't be long, mate. It's looking very handsome. So my name's Dave Stockbridge. Of course, this has been Hollywood Matt Connolly, and this has been Arm Wrestling Extra, and we'll look forward to bringing you more next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.